Hello there. Here we are for round 3. So I think we know what to do with this hand. We are on the draw. Our opponent has also mulliganed. Kept 6 cards, and we are obviously going to keep this. Go ahead and bottom the land. Even though it's a ghost quarter, we don't need land. We want gas. And it looks like we're in for a little bit of a zooing, or burning, or something quick. So, turn 1 Goblin Guide is not great. I mean, it's already done 4 damage and revealed 2 Chalice of the Voids, so it hasn't even drawn us a card. So opponent spends Rift Bolt. So here we can double Ritual and Magma Jet the Goblin Guide, Chalice for 1, Chalice, and then we're kind of out of stuff to do. We just have to hope that wins us the game if we take that line. The other line is Chalicing for 2, which would be pretty good, except it turns off our Magma Jet. The other line is just Chalicing for 1 this turn, and then setting up for an Anger or a Magma Jet next turn. I think these options, I think the first option is actually pretty good. Magma Jetting, Chalicing for 1. If we just Chalice for 1 this turn, we can also Chalice for 2 next turn. If we Chalice for 2 first, we can't actually Chalice for 1 because it's going to counter our Chalice on 1. Our Chalice for 2 is going to counter our Chalice for 1. Following? So if we Chalice for 2 and then try and Chalice on 1, its converted mana cost is going to be 2, which is double X, where X is 1. Math! So our plan is to just Chalice for 1 this turn and then Chalice for 2 next turn, and ignore the Goblin Guide, because almost every card in this deck should cost 1 or 2, except Rift Bolt. And this way we can also Anger the Gods if our opponent floods the board. And we whiff on land again, which is actually getting a little annoying. And our opponent suspends Rift Bolt. So this is going to be 5 damage when we're at 8. And our opponent can't cast anything this turn. So we draw Chandra, which I think makes our play this turn fairly clear. We play Chandra plus, and then Magma Jet the Goblin Guide, which leaves us in a great spot. Now we're going to be at 5, but our opponent can't cast 1-drops. If they want to cast a 2-drop this turn, it should at most deal us 4 damage in the form of Boros Charm, and then we can Chalice for 2 and seal up the game. Alright, so we've Chaliced for 2 and our opponent didn't even do anything that turn, which means the game's basically over. Now they need essentially Rift Bolt 3 and 4 to win. And they've already cast those 2 Rift Bolts, which means we win the game. So Chalice, a very powerful card against burn decks, since their curve is so low. So low. Alright, sideboarding against burn. So we obviously want all of these, want this, want this, want this, and probably want this. As for getting rid of things, Koth isn't that great. Ensnaring Bridge is not that great, but is okay. Blood Moon is fairly bad as well, but it can turn off their white or green for a Tarkus command. And Boros Charm. Relic is just cycle. And Tybalt is obviously excellent. So we want all of this, I'd say, including these angers. And we probably just want this anger as well for dealing with creatures. So it's just a matter of what we want from this. So I think for sure we want one Blood Moon, because the first Blood Moon is actually going to be good. Maybe we want an Ensnaring Bridge, maybe we want the Koth. It was looking like we didn't really have much pressure before that Chandra that we drew. Like, we don't have much pressure if we don't even have Koth. But Koth is going to be pretty bad when we're under pressure. So on the draw, it could stay or it could go. Maybe one Ensnaring Bridge for the late game, stopping any creatures from attacking, and probably another Blood Moon. So this is 8 and this is 9, so pretty much anything from here. We could just go with the Koth or the relics to cycle into better things. I mean, ideally we chalice on 1. The relics aren't going to do much. So something along these lines, I would say, would work. So we're in the draw. We have Chalice, which is great. We have Sun Droplet. This is the perfect hand. We can Chalice on turn 1. Of course, a Goblin Guide or a Monastery Swiftspear is going to be difficult to deal with. And we even draw Anger, which is going to be excellent backup as well. So here, I mean, Sun Droplet is tempting, but so is shutting off our opponent's spells. So I like chalicing. I suppose Sun Droplet could be the play as well. I mean, Sun Droplet is just great against burn. Enough so that we don't really care if they play a 1-drop this turn, but even if they go Goblin Guide, Monastery Swiftspear, we have the Anger of the Gods backup. So, I mean, Chalice is fine. They're both such strong plays. And our opponent Eidolons. So now we're able to deploy the Sun Droplet. And get the Sun Droplet going, which is just, I love this card. I'm kind of sad it doesn't see more play in Modern, but not really the right format for it, or the right metagame for it when you're getting infected out. And Anger just causes the scoop. Our opponent probably does, in fact, have a bunch of 1-drops, and even if they do have a bunch of 2-drops, it's going to be hard to whittle through this Sun Droplet if they don't have a bunch of, say, Atarka's commands. Sun Droplet is just 2 life a turn, is so much for these burn decks to get through. And deck did what it's supposed to do.